Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Roswell, New Mexico. A lot of interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. First and foremost, it's kind of this cool episode in the sense of just like everybody knowing that everybody knows. It's just kind of like, oh yeah, like Max and Cam talk, which is like, oh, the whole like, oh, you've lied to me. Also, did I get like an intergalactic like STD or something, which is so interesting. Like, that's an interesting thing. But to be fair, she kind of had the last episode to kind of process it, but this is her and Max's first time. I wonder what the conversation was like when he found out. It's like, oh yeah, also maybe Kyle was like, oh yeah, Cam knows, or maybe Cam said something in passing at some point in time. But this was like, either way, this was their first time talking about it. So that's interesting. It's kind of sad too, because you know there's still a part of her that cares about Max in that sense too, because for her it's like later on when everything went down with the shooter at where Liz works and everything, she was like, you know, Liz was holding her breath the entire time, you know, waiting for you, making sure that you're okay. And he's like, oh, okay. But you can tell she was potentially talking about it from her perspective as well. But I don't think Max really recognizes that, because it's just, you know, Cam kind of ended things, but I think it's still, because for her, I think she's starting to see a different side of Max, because it's like, Maria's like, oh yeah, Max was singing at karaoke, like, oh, is he get you at karaoke again? Cameron's like, yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. You know, Max and karaoke singing, it doesn't happen. And he kind of looks at her and she's like, are you freaking kidding me? So for her, it's like, she's seeing a different side of Max that she's never seen. Even him like running straight into the fire. Like, he's done it multiple times. He did it before with Liz when she was in trouble, and now he's doing it again. And so for her, it's almost kind of like, like Liz gets to see another side of you that I never got to see, and this is the side of you that I like, that I just never got to see a lot of, and I see who you really are. And maybe on some level she feels like things could have worked out, but they never did, you know. So I don't know, it's just kind of where my mind is on that. Then there's the whole Alex and Michael thing, and he's just kind of like, Michael messing with him, being like, oh, if you want me to, I can't erase your memory. Alex is like, can you really do that? He's like, no, but it'd be pretty cool if I could, couldn't it? And introduces him, you know, because we kind of learned a little bit more about Michael's situation, like obviously the whole foster care situation. It is interesting. I wonder why is that Michael was never taken by, because like they went, like Max and Isabel's parents went there with one intention, to get one child, but he ended up walking with two. But why not three? Because even Michael doesn't know why. But he bounced from different foster home to foster home. But when it was all said and done, it led him back to Roswell, New Mexico. So it allowed him to be closer to Isabel and Max. So it kind of worked out in the end. But things weren't all that good. And obviously he learns from Alex about the fact is that his family are kind of basically alien hunters. He showcases, you know, everything he's hiding, and it doesn't seem like it's necessarily the ship that he was buying. It was more so like what he was trying to rebuild was essentially the control unit for it, and he is talking about leaving. And I'm assuming that's why Alex didn't want to give him the piece that he had, because he doesn't want to let Michael go, because he loves Michael, and like obviously he's like, you know, I'm just going to be helping you leave faster if I give you the piece you have. You know, I mean, he might justify it other ways, which is also the whole conversation being like, Maria being like, oh yeah, who's that guy you fell in love with? I didn't realize. It's like, oh yeah, Alex had kept that secret this entire time. And it's like, oh yeah, who's that guy? Yeah, it was Michael. And it's like, oh wait. And he's like, no, it's okay. Like, I know about you know, he, you know, can be pretty good when after, you know, he's freshened up. And he's like, I'm sure you would know. She's like, if I'd known that, you know, it was you and Michael, I would have never. And he's like, no, I understand, but it's still this awkwardness. And even later on, he's like, oh, we can get drink, like, you know, free drinks and stuff like that, because they got buddy last time and everything. And she's like, Alex is one of my best friends. If I'd known that you two were a thing, I would have never slept with you. She's like, it can never happen again. He's like, you've made that clear. And it just kind of leaves. I think because in the time they spent together, Maria's kind of gotten a thing for Michael. Maybe he feels the same way. It's kind of hard to say, because you see the way it almost seems like he's bothered by it, being like, I got it. You said it enough. Like, I think there's something there, which is just I mean, to be fair, him and Alex have been complicated for a while, and so it's just kind of been an on and off thing. And then him and Maria happened while they were kind of off. So it's like, now I think his heart's kind of trapped between two places. That's a complicated thing all on its own. So it's going to be interesting to see. Like I said, because you definitely get the feeling like Maria might have a thing for him, which you almost get the feeling like Maria's almost like, I never would have ever thought that was possible, you know, which is interesting, because like Michael being who he is, like, no one would have thought anyone would fall for him, but like now you have potentially two people who have fallen for him, Alex and Maria, you know, so we'll see how that complicated situation plays out. Kyle's learning more about his dad. He ends up telling his mom the truth. I guess he still hasn't told... Did he tell Liz the truth about Rosa? I don't think he ever did. Because I'd almost forgotten about it because he hasn't brought it up before. The whole like, oh yeah, Rosa's his half-sister and everything. Which also I think I brought it up too because it's that weird situation of like, yeah, you kind of slept with your half-sister's half-sister, you know? And it's weird when you actually think about it, the whole situation, but nevertheless. But it's the whole thing of like, why hasn't he told her yet? I mean, I guess because there's been so much other stuff, but he ends up telling his mom this episode. I mean, it's like, yeah, he was having an affair, but he had an affair with Rosa's mom, which that's a whole can of worms in itself we still have not tackled. Like, we learned about their mom like secondhand, but never got to see it ourselves or really understand like what her situation is. Like, she drinks and she's a liar. That's kind of all we've gotten about it. Because even Rosa was upset in the past because she felt like no matter what she did, people would always look at her as like, oh, it's that Oteka girl. It's like, oh, they're, you know, it's just like her mother. You know, it's like no matter what she does, she'll always be prejudged. And that was a whole conversation she had with Isabella, but, you know, about being like, hey, when it's all said and done, like, you know, the town's kind of already made up its mind about who they think you are, and that's just all you'll ever be in their eyes. But he ended up learning that there's this Caulfield, this prison that his dad is connected to, because it all stems from like, oh, like his dad, obviously the whole conversation of his dad and Maine's not having the same code. It also came down to this message of like, oh, yeah, of course, you know, he was trying to do the right thing. It's like, always protect the kids. Now, part of me was wondering, it's like, that's him referencing, like, oh, protect the kids and, like, look after family. I immediately interpret that as, no, protect the kids, as in Isabel, Michael, and Max. Like, they might be the key to everything in the sense that they're good versus, like, what's coming. Like, maybe this other alien was always going to potentially come after them as a target, and maybe it was about protecting them in that way. Or at the very least, it's protect them from Mans. Like, maybe Kyle's dad knew about who were the three aliens, but he kept that secret from Mans because he wasn't about to have him go kill or experiment on kids. I think that's the true message behind that. But there's also, like I said, that prison that Kyle's grandfather worked at, which might have been like one of the bases that they, I mean, depending, you know, how old Kyle's dad was, but it could have been a situation of like, oh yeah, that prison is where they did a lot of their top secret alien stuff. So there's that. Because there's also the interesting thing of like his dad's got like a tumor that grew heavily, and obviously he's asking his mom, is like, why did you think that was weird? She's like, you wanted me to put in a murder investigation on a tumor and stuff like that. So that's why she never looked too deeply into it, because she just thought it was just kind of like, oh, it was just something aggravated it. It just kind of made it grow. She didn't really think much beyond that. So that's definitely going to be interesting to see that unravel. But I'm assuming that's what the whole Caulfield prison, especially because it's a prison that's shut down, it would make sense for that to be kind of the base of operations. I'm curious to see what Maine's will do because, you know, Cameron isn't working on his side, you know, so she's literally doing quite the opposite. So I'm curious to see, like, is that going to force him to come back into town? There's other things. Who knows? Some key things that I also think about. For one, the whole Noah thing, it immediately answered my question. Like, in fact, him showing up with the gun, it's like, okay, so you're totally not the fourth alien in that regard, just because of the way he reacts. Because I brought that up last episode, being like, how he reacts will determine, like, where, like, immediate will tell you, like, okay, his situation. It's like, yeah, he was just a concerned husband. He's like, I found you in an egg, and then she's literally explaining everything, and she's like, I'm so in love with you sometimes. I find you so sexy sometimes. I just want to, like, what was it, like, fuse our skin together or something like that. He's like, can you do that? And she's like, no. I love it. That's a thing of like, what is it you can actually do? Like, you know, but it's like, no matter what he actually does, it love Isabel, because I love the situation of him being like, how do I know that I really love you? And, you know, did I even really pick this sweater? And she's like, did you make me? She's like, of course not. I would never pick that sweater. I've never used my powers on you, because like, she's never used them in the past 10 years. I want to say the last person she used her powers on was trying to shift Liz's mind. That's about it. She hasn't really used them subsequently since then. I think that's also why her powers are a little rocky. Much like Max, she hasn't used her powers in that time frame. So, But I love her showing her powers off to Noah to make the group split, and Noah's like, yeah, this is going to take some getting used to. It's still kind of weird. I love it. I love the embracing the weirdness about this whole situation. Like I said, I didn't expect so many people to find out the truth. I'm wondering, will everyone find out by the end, or is it just going to be select few? Like, will Maria kind of get brought in? Because that's going to be, she's kind of in the middle of that situation. Like, Alex knows the truth about Michael, so about him being an alien, so it makes you wonder, will Maria find out potentially? But thanks to the truth serum, the cure that Isabel's been taking, it has made it so that she's been remembering more of every time she blacked out back then, it's her and Rosa being friends. And then I kind of thought, it's yeah, there was something more there, but for Rosa, it wasn't like that. She's like, I know you want to probably be more, but it's not like that for us. So that was interesting. But there was also the whole situation of I don't want to be Isabel. And now combined with everything else that went down in the episode, us finding out that the person behind all this wasn't about Liz's work. This is about her work with alien stuff is what this was really about, because the person behind it didn't remember anything. And this is really fascinating. It seems that whatever this alien is, their power is similar to Isabel's, but it seems like they can push it further, because Isabel's all about, she can nudge people in a certain direction with her ability, but maybe it seems like this other alien has full control of their power. It seems like they don't even just get inside of your head. It seems like they literally control your body. And it also seems like they have a little bit of what Max has, because doing what it did to kill Rosa the way it did, it seems like it might have a combination of all three of their abilities. I mean, we haven't really seen it do any telekinesis when it was controlling Isabel, or maybe that power it used was something else entirely. I mean, to be fair, it might be a situation of let's not forget about Kyle's dad. Maybe it just because the hand glows like that, maybe it's not necessarily electricity or whatever. Maybe it just outright rapid healing to the point it causes a cancer or something to build up until it kills you or something. Or maybe it is just straight up healing that the more offensive side of Max's ability. I don't know. Like I said, that red head glowing makes me think that, but it almost feels like it might be something else entirely. So now it puts into question everything, because for Isabel, she was remembering all this stuff now, but it's maybe it wasn't her, maybe it was this alien. And because it seems like this alien in particular goes after people who have some issues, like Wyatt, blackout drunk. The dude from this episode, he had epilepsy and would black out from it. Isabel suffered from her trauma of that day that they were attacked and Max ended up killing the dude. It created a trauma in her brain that left an opening for this creature. But what was interesting is the creature being I can be whatever you want me to be. So it's who or whatever it is had a thing for Rosa, and it just controlled Isabel to do it, because I guess it was just easier. But whoever it was, I would assume would have to be about their age, wouldn't they? I don't know. It was interesting, or maybe it is someone older, which would have made that weird and disgusting. But it's I don't know who that potentially could be. I mean, it sounds like it's a dude, the way he was talking like that and stuff. So it might be a situation of they can literally kind of almost do an astral projection type of thing. Because that's why she didn't remember and stuff like that, was because someone else was literally controlling her body. But the thing too to consider is how did you know about Liz's research? It's not like she's making that public knowledge, she's doing alien stuff. It's for you to do that, you have to have some insider information. So it has to be someone that knows them all in some shape or form. It has to be someone who's close to the Oteka family. Makes you wonder, is this connected to anyone from Rosa's past in a sense of her drug days? There was that dude, but I doubt it's him because he got clean and everything. So that's why I kind of feel like it couldn't be him connected to drugs and all that. So it's who is it? But I think it will be good in the long run for Isabel to find out, hey, maybe you weren't responsible for all this, because it's hey, for one, because obviously she's got a lot of guilt because she's remembering her doing it exactly, killing those two girls and then killing Rosa. So what's also interesting, we should also note, is that Michael did take some of the cure from Liz, which it was stolen. So, which made the question, why would someone take the cure? We know Michael took a sample just because in case the poison or the the weapon ever gets used against them, they'll have the cure on tap. But it's like, who else would take the cure? I mean, it makes sense that an alien would, but why? Like, not unless you're sick and you need to be cured. But for what reason? Or do you not want them cured? Do you want the weapon to still be there, but in case it ever gets used on them, there's no cure? Or now I'm sitting here, I answered my own question. Much like the same reason why Michael took the cure. This alien knows what Liz was doing, so it's like, oh, let me get some cures on my side just in case I get poisoned. So it's like, I answered my own question there. So once again, it's like, it has to be someone that's well versed in all of this, but it's like, who? I'm very interested to see what the next episode has in store for us with all of this. But really, that's all I want to talk about today. So, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, enjoy it. Good day and good